All right, good morning, guys. Today we are still in the book of Exodus. Today is February 7th, and I actually got ahead of myself yesterday and completed the seventh chapter, but we were supposed to complete that today and take it all the way through to Exodus 9, chapter 9, verse 7. So today I'm just going over Exodus 8 through chapter 9, verse 7. And I'm just going to say today's reading is a lot. So, I pray that everybody kind of take their time and really walk through it because so many things is going on. And all I'm really sharing is like what stands out to me. But it's one of those things where you kind of see Moses being God being more direct with Moses. Because normally it was like God was telling Moses to tell Aaron. So today in chapter 8, it was like God is telling Moses to now you go and you speak to Pharaoh. And so I feel like today is when it kind of crosses a line with Pharaoh from pride to a hardened heart. Because I know that was something that God had told Moses that he was going to do with Pharaoh. And I know yesterday when we were talking about turning things into blood, like, why would you have your magicians do that? Because it was something that affected the whole land. Why would you do it just because they could do it? But then again, today we see the same things when God gave the next plague, which was frogs. And the crazy thing in the beginning, when God was speaking to Moses and he was talking about the frogs, it was so specific, where he said that the frogs will come out of the river into your palace, even into your bedroom and onto your bed. They will enter the houses of your officials on your people. They will even jump into your ovens and your kneading bowls. Frogs will jump on you, your people, and all your officials. Okay, I can't imagine being anywhere and having frogs all over the place. But that being crazy enough, you see that Pharaoh turns around and he still has his magicians do it too. It's almost like at that point, it's one of those things like there's something else going on because I can't imagine looking at a whole bunch of frogs everywhere and then turn around and have somebody else do it because I guess blood is one thing to watch the things in the sea just die. But now it's like it's really in my house. So I'm not really understanding. So I'm thinking that's when like somebody just really having a hardened heart is when they cross that level. And so, but this time, right after the magicians do it, then Pharaoh pleads with Moses to undo it. And Moses is like, all right. And he's like, I'll let your people go and I'll let them worship God. Just ask God to stop it. And so Moses, said, tell me when. So he went ahead and he did it. And he cried out to God. And it was like when he cried out to God, all the frogs they died, but they weren't removed. So the reminder of what happened was still there because they had to actually throw the frogs into heaps. So it wasn't like they disappeared or they retreated and went back to where they came. No, they died where they was and they had to be piled up. And this left a stench. So I just feel like this is so important because this is so personal and this is so invasive. But this, like, his heart was so hardened that it didn't even matter. And so it shows the next thing it was talking about was when God sent the gnats. And I think the thing that was so different with this one, okay, let me see. Okay, no. So the gnats came and the thing with the gnats that stood out the most was this time the magicians exclaimed to Pharaoh that this is the finger of God because they could not repeat it. So now something was done. And even in again, like Pharaoh just was like, I don't care because Pharaoh, in his mind, he was God. He was a God to his people. So it was almost like everything that he did was Moses was showing that I have the ability to do everything your God can do. And this was the first time that God was like, no, you don't. And the magicians actually let it be known that they couldn't duplicate it. And so I'm going to share because today we actually have a devotional that goes with this chapter. And it's from Exodus 8:18 when it says Pharaoh's magicians tried to do the same thing with their secret arts, but this time they failed, and the gnats covered everyone, people and animals alike. Love letter from God. It says, Beloved daughter, I am the God of miracles. Unfortunately, man made illusions of happiness have kept many of my children from seeing my miracles. Let me help you discern the difference between the two. The miracles I perform are everlasting and will satisfy your soul more than any illusion this world can create for you. A counterfeit can create a false feeling of comfort, leaving you longing for more and create an addiction that can hold you hostage. I am performing the miracle. It will point to me and bring peace to you. Love your Heavenly Father. The reflection for today is the enemy creates illusions that may appear to be what our hearts long for, but our souls will never be satisfied if we settle for something phony. We may imagine the counterfeit happiness of this world to be more satisfying than what God offers us, but we can't hold on to that illusion forever. And then it has a little treasure of truth. A true miracle points to God and not to people. So this is a turning point because it's like God is separating himself from man. It's like up until this point, even though the things that they were doing to themselves didn't make sense, to even repeat, they still had limited power to show them that they could do it. But this is where God sets the bar to be like, I'm God. Like, I'm going to do a miracle and I'm the only one who could do it. And in their case, it was something that worked against them. But in our case, it's something where it's going to be Him loving on us and giving us something that's going to be eternal. And that's one of the things that as we walk this walk out, we always want to seek His face because, we have things that might provide us comfort, and everybody has something different. My battle right now is with food, and I'm doing the Daniel plan, and I'm getting ready to start back up with the group because that's a real battle for me. But it's one of those things I'm noticing a big difference by trying to come away from certain things and just do the things that God like created for us to have and to eat that. And it's a blessing, and it's been a blessing to other people, but it's definitely a walk that we need Him for. Everything starts with God, all change. So that's why getting into your word is amazing. All right. So the next thing that happens, chapter 8, a lot is going on. I'm just saying that. Because the next time God goes ahead and he does the plague of flies, but this time he says that the region of Goshen where my people live, no flies will be found there. So this is another distinction because it's one of those things where I always felt in the book of Exodus that God was reintroducing himself to his people too. Because remember, it was one of those things where things had got so hard for them and they hadn't really seen the move of God, but they still, like, believed because they still were crying out to him. They were still knowing about their ancestors and the things that God had done with their ancestors before them. But this was the first time that this generation was seeing it for themselves. So I thought that was good. And so it was like Pharaoh again told them they could go ahead, but he was like, but you can't leave the land. You got to do it here. But Moses said no, that he can't do it in the land because he knew that what they did was offensive. The way they sacrificed was offensive to the Egyptians. So if they did it there in the land, that the Egyptians would possibly kill them for their sacrifice. So he was like, no, we need to leave. And of course, Pharaoh said, go ahead and I'll allow you. But this time it's almost like you could see Moses really finding his voice. I guess I'm not sure if he wasn't tripping over his words anymore, because this time when Moses replied to Pharaoh that he was gonna go ahead and he was gonna plead out to God to stop the flies, it was like one Moses said that I am warning you. Pharaoh, don't lie to us again and refuse to let the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And so, but this is like Moses finding his voice and him learning how to stand on what God says. So it's almost like as he's doing it, he's getting bolder and speaking more, like, with Pharaoh, because he sees how God really is behind him and he's confident in that God is leading him in all of the stuff that he's doing. So now you've, of course, Pharaoh, because his heart is hardened. So it's almost like when that person does stuff that works against everybody, even themselves included, that is something much bigger going on. And that's a person that you want to leave to God. It's like if God make you interact with that person, it's like just know that you would want to have him leading you in a situation like that, because a person like that is not somebody I would want to interact with, like in my own will, in my own anything. All right. So then the next thing God does is he brings the plague against the livestock. And so he struck down all the livestock, but again, none of the ones for the his people were touched. And it shows that, he still, the next morning, it's like God did it, but Pharaoh actually sent out people to investigate to see if the Israelites were spared. And they actually discovered that the Israelites had not a single animal. So it's one of those things that had not lost, I'm sorry, the Israelites had not lost a single animal, but his heart was hardened and he still refused to let the people go. So, I mean, another way you could kind of relate this to you is like maybe God will show you something that you're doing that you don't want to let go of for whatever reason. And a lot of times let that be between you and God, but don't allow your heart to harden, because it's one of those things, anything he tells us, again, is for our benefit. Even if we can't see it, even if we don't understand it, it's like we got to learn how to trust it and walk it out with him, and then realize that we're not going to do it without him, that we're going to need him to do whatever it is that he's asking of us. So the book of Exodus, I'm sorry, it's almost like Hollywood has done it. A lot of times y'all see things that Hollywood do when they call it a Christian movies. But I'm gonna just let y'all know Hollywood's still from the Bible all day, every day. And it's like if you read in your word, you get it. So I hope you guys are enjoying your time in the word. And this is another thing, like if you're somebody who really enjoys worship music, because a lot of times, like, people will go into worship and have that be their time with God. But if you actually digging into your word, your worship songs will become so alive to you. Like I remember one of my favorite songs one year that just swept it. I think it swept every award, like with the Dubs. It was like Graves into Gardens. But it's almost like when you're in your word and you actually know the stories behind the songs that they're singing, it's like you sing it with so much more vigor and excitement, because it's like you're singing about what God did, because you know what he can do and what he's actually doing today. So I pray that you guys enjoyed this part of Exodus. It was meaty. I feel myself like going back over it just to make sure I got everything out of it. And as always, if you have any comments, I would love to hear it. You could shoot me a text, leave a comment. I posted on my Facebook page as well. So if you want to comment there, because I really feel like this is an awesome uh, part of scripture. So everybody have a blessed day.